All right, Evan, thank you for joining us today. We have one of our wonderful SPFL grads joining us today, Angela. She just wrapped up her time with the program and she's going to chat with us today about her experience. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I'm Angela. I just wrapped up the SPFL program through my company at Mattel. So I finished up the program literally, I think, a week ago, which was, an incredible experience. So I'm so excited to chat with you about it.
What made this program relevant or important to you, or what made you want to sign up when this was offered to you?
Sure. For me, it was a very personal decision. I had been going through some challenging personal times. I was recovering from burnout at work, and I was on leave for a little while. And actually, one of the reasons, and I shared this with my guide, Krista, at the time, one of the reasons I came back to work was because I had signed up for this training with Owl and Key. And I just thought, this is something I need to do. I'm at a point in my life where I'm not sure where I'm going. I sort of described to people that I was feeling like a bumper car. I was just being nudged all around, not really sure where I was going, not sure where I wanted to go. And I needed a framework to help me work through a lot of things that I had been thinking about. And this was just one of those promising opportunities that came across at just the right time.
And I want to applaud you for being so vulnerable and sharing that. I know when we started this session, you shared that with your group because I think so many people feel that and they're in that same season and they feel like they can't share that or, you know, say that that's what's going on. They feel like they're not being strong or whatever. And that is not true. And you sharing that piece with, your group and you are being such a vessel for other people to see that and hopefully do the actions that you're doing and growing so much. It was such a joy to watch you grow through the sessions. I know I was only on the first and the last one, but I loved getting checked back in and see how much you have grown. Was there a certain part of the course that spoke the most to you or unlocked the most for you, or was it kind of a combination of everything that you went through in the whole course?
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of both. It's a very personal journey and course. So it's a framework that can work for a lot of people, but it's a very personal commitment that you make to it, which can be very challenging and scary, especially because you're still going about your daily life and just doing what you've always been doing. But it is a safe place, and it is very guided. So it can be those two things at the same time. And I think that's what's unique about this. It's not a traditional corporate development course where you're training in leadership skills. It can help you be a better leader and be a better colleague, be a better partner, all of those things. But it's a very personal journey that you get to craft on your own using this sort of design framework to make it work for you. What I loved it was how it started, which was grounding ourselves in our personalities. What is my personality? What lights me up? What drains me? What are my actual values when I have to put pen to paper, say what they are, and share them in a group setting and talk about them? That was probably the most impactful because it gave me a place to do that. And I got to hear what other people were thinking, which was also inspiring. It was sort of symbiotic in that way. So it was the safety net that it was challenging, but it was really those initial exercises that we went through that honestly just gave me the place and the space that I needed to work through things that I had already been thinking about in my head, but couldn't do it in an organized sort of where am I going way.
Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of people might flip through the book before we get started and say, "Oh, I know that about myself. I know more about me than anybody." But then when you
Yes.
really get digging in, you really don't know that you're just at the surface, and you really need to dive in. And the things that you unlock about yourself, or things that you maybe didn't even really understand, and then it helps put those pieces together. Was there anything surprising that came up for you during, the sessions and working through that with yourself?
Yes, there's a really big one that it just started to unfold over this past year, I think, as I've been honest with myself about what's giving me energy and what's not, and who I am and who I want to be. So as a person in the business world, I went to graduate school, got my MBA. So that you do things like Myers-Briggs personality tests, DISC assessments, all those sort of things that everyone does. I've done them in the corporate world at multiple companies, and every single time when there was that extrovert introvert scale, I always was an extrovert, very minimally so, and maybe even right in the middle of the road. But this time around, when I went through the exercise, I was coming through as a stronger introvert.
Mhm.
And I think that's because I finally felt safe and prompted to be honest with myself and to answer the questions in the context of this guided experience versus doing it in a room with my peers, thinking I needed to answer in a way that was reflective of the job I had at the time. So it felt good that I was finally reinforced that there was a disconnect between some results I was seeing and some thoughts I was having and feelings I was having and where I was getting my energy. And it shook me up a little bit because it was confusing and new. And I'm almost 40 years old, and to only uncover that now was a little jarring. And I even talked to my mom about it, and she said, "Oh no, I've always known you were an introvert. If you have, you've known that. I didn't know that."
Well, and I feel like it's so interesting is the drives and drains because there are things where I do love to be around people and I am
Right.
such a people person. But then when I was thinking about a drain of mine is being around too many people at this, too much.
Yes.
So it's like, finding that balance where you might have things that drive you, but they could also be on your drains list. And I found that very
Yes.
shocking to me and so eye-opening that, and
Yes.
I've been doing better about that now. Like if I know I'm gonna be go, 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 but I'm leading and then giving myself that time to then have that space where I am by myself. So it's just so surprising. Like you said, yeah, I'm like, oh, I do
Yeah.
want to be alone, like, because I'm usually not like that. So it was
Yeah.
such an unlock.
Yeah.
Was there
And
oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just curious, do you find it's too, it's in the specificity of the relationship? So there are all types of human reactions. So
Mhm,
sometimes the small talk interactions can be the most draining, but
mhm,
a really intimate conversation with one person, it's still social, but it's not draining in the same way. And trying to understand that about yourself takes some practice.
mhm. And then it's nice to have that information about yourself. So if you know you're going to a situation where you're going to be in a group
Yes.
of people and that is that draining piece, that you can charge up before that or figure out what you need to do, add some, of your non-negotiables in there before that,
Hmm.
or build that time in afterwards where you can recharge. But having that knowledge about yourself and lets you strategically make that game plan for yourself. And I've been
Yes.
doing a lot about this holiday season. I'm an overcommitter and I put too much on our plate and we're stressed and I said this holiday season we're not doing that. I'm going to take things off the list and we're going to
Yep.
have a slow paced holiday season and I've loved it. And that's shocking to me and I'm like it's very nice to be able to have this toolbox now to get out and use these tools to better yourself, or if you're
Yes.
feeling off anywhere, you can get it back out and say, okay, well, yeah, I'm not using my non-negotiables here. I'm doing too much of my drains and not my drive. So it's a very wonderful thing to have. Was there a specific part of your life you felt was more impacted than the other, or was it a nice holistic um, approach to everything from this course?
Yeah, for me, it was very holistic. And I think that's because of the work I had already started that was sort of taking a step back and considering myself as an entire person instead of a fragmented work person, a fragmented, manager, mom, partner. I tried to view those things all together because I realized it was becoming quite draining for me to parse myself out in that way and to show up in each situation differently. And of course, life, sometimes you do have to show up differently in situations, but there are still core things I can remind myself of, or to your point, making sure that I'm refilling my cup and maintaining focused on those non-negotiables. And the biggest thing I noticed when I knew it was happening in both places was when I had two instances where my husband in the morning, he had gone grocery shopping very early and he came home and he was unloading and I had my coffee and I started to help him. And he said, "Oh, no, no, I've got this. You need to go take your morning time on the couch and meditate. I know that's how your day starts. And because I'm doing this doesn't mean you have to stop doing what you need to do." Right. And so it was happening at home. And then later in the day, I was going out for a walk on my lunch, which was a non-negotiable. And a woman stopped me in the hallway and she said, "I've noticed you've been going out, every day. I'd love to join you." And so it was giving her permission, right? She was respecting me going, but also it was giving her permission. And that's when I really started to realize how much bigger this is, because one
Mhm.
of the reasons I did this was to make my life better for me, but also for the people around me. And that's why I think it's important to go into this trying to think about your whole life as a full being.
And I love it. I know you shared that at our last call, and That is amazing. And just knowing that, you are being a better person, your husband's realizing that she needs that time because then that makes her be a better mom, a better partner, a better everything. And then, yeah, like you're showing your coworkers, that is such a gift. How quickly did you start seeing the changes once you got into the program? Was it quickly
Yes.
or did it take a little bit?
So fast. I think, and I see you nodding your head, and I'm sort of not surprised because everything about this, it can seem sort of grand, right? Like, what's my
Mhm.
purpose? How do I live a life worth living? But I think very quickly you come to realize it's small steps. It's micro decisions every day and how you choose to conduct yourself, how you choose to spend your time, what you say yes to, what you say no to. And if you're really being true to those values from the outset, it's so quickly that
Mhm.
I think other people around you are so aware because you are so firm in what you're doing for you or what I was doing for me. It was so quick to be noticed.
And I realized when I did the course, I was always stressed out and it was just a lot. And I
Yeah.
felt like, oh, this is just normal. This is how it's going to be. I'm a working mom. I have two kids. I'm involved, in a lot of activities. That's just this how this is normal. And
Yeah.
then when I realized it doesn't have to be that way, it was very eye opening to me. And I noticed, I would start to feel off. I would grab the book. What am I not doing? And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
I wasn't doing this one non-negotiable. I wasn't getting up early and giving myself that space. I wasn't going on that walk. And I'm like, that can't be just that little bit will really change my day. And I'm like, let's add that back in. And oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it was such a game changer. And it's so funny where people think it has to be this big, huge overhaul and change. And it really isn't. It can be just these micro pieces that in the
Yes.
long haul make the biggest changes. Um, so for you with this course, like I know you earlier said you have done other things, other
Sure.
programs. What made this program different for you?
Um, I think for me, what was different is that it was so very personal. And from the very beginning, everyone was encouraged to be our authentic selves, right? There were sort of ground rules for the group. Krista, the guide, sort of started off on this gentle voice, providing space for us all to open up. I think as someone who's introverted, I was allowed to listen and called upon in appropriate ways to respond when I felt ready, which is hard to find that sort of dynamic that you feel comfortable opening up and being yourself with. And I think the community that I started to build with, there are people who work at my company who I didn't have any interaction with for the most part. I think one of the men on my in my group I had worked with, but in a very tangential way. And now I have relationships with them. If I see them when they're traveling, if they, come to our office, we're greeting each other with open arms, which is a unique experience to have. I don't think I've ever gone through a training or a corporate training course where afterwards, we were hugging each other or so happy to see each other afterwards. But it's a very unique thing.
Yes, I love being in the first session because everyone's kind of like, what did I get
Yes.
myself into? What are we doing here? And you just kind of read everyone's faces. And then by the last session, everyone's like this little group. And we've had
Yeah.
so many groups that stay connected after. And they're just like this great little team. And you guys are all working through to this same thing. And it's so neat to see from start to finish the connection the group has. Is there anything, so if someone came to you and they're like, I saw this course is available, I'm thinking I might want to take it, but I'm not sure. What would you say to somebody who's thinking about maybe signing up?
Say if you have this inkling that there is something more for you, there's something more inside of you, or you're questioning, like, is this it? Is this all there is? Or you just feel lost, like the bumper car that I was feeling like, where I was just being nudged around by the next thing that happened to me or felt like was happening to me. And to me, if you're even asking that question, should I? My answer would be a resounding yes, because
Mhm.
there's something inside of you that's telling you there's something more. Um, and it can't hurt. And I promise it will do more than not hurt. It will probably add a lot of value to your life because there are tools. So even if you're not ready in the moment to let those tools do everything they can for you, there's one-on-one sessions, there's group sessions. You take away a book with you. It's something that you can revisit literally as often as you want. Every week, if you needed to, every year, whatever it is, it's so very iterative that the person you are trying to become will thank you for trying.
That I love that you say that. And it's true. We want people to know there's more to life than just feeling stressed out and burnt out all the time. That doesn't have to be that way. and we do say, this course is not about us. It is about each person taking the course. It's very personalized to you, and it is true. It's a 9-week course, but this is a program you can use year after year, week after week. I know after the program was done for me, I did have to get my book out every week and look and start my week off that way. And then, gradually I didn't have to get out as often. I even started using it with my husband and I. We would meet every week or every month and we do our year plan. And it's just been game changing. I love that you have felt that too, and that you took the chance and took the course. You've been such a joy to have, and I loved hearing your story. I know Krista and the group felt the same. So we thank you for giving this a chance as well. Is there anything else you would like to share about the program?
I've got to do this. I have to do that. And to get caught up in the to-do lists and the feeling of exhaustion. Sometimes it's burnout, sometimes it's stress, whatever it is for someone as an individual. It's easy to say, well, that's just how life is. And I think that it's unfair to you as a person because there's a whole lot of life to live. And even just taking a deep breath and learning how to do that can change the trajectory of an entire day. And I wish, as I've gone through this process and have experienced it for myself, I wish it for other people too, because it is that impactful. So I hope that, anyone who's out there who's thinking of, what's next for me? Where do I go from here? I'm feeling lost. I'm hurting. I don't know who I am anymore. Whatever it is, I hope that they find Owl and Key and strategic planning for life because it's worth it.
It is. I always laugh when I'm doing things. I said, when you get done, you realize how impactful it is, and you just want to share it with everybody. I said I was like Oprah, like, you get a car, everybody take this. And it's like, you feel like, am I crazy? And it's so nice when we get to talk to everybody. They're like, no, I felt the change. Like, it is life changing. And you just want everyone to feel that happiness, that balance you can get from implementing these unlocks that you get during this course. So I'm so glad that you have felt that too. And I thank you so much for joining us today.